guys, welcome back to the B Bunch family. I'm Sam, this is Justine, and this is Anna, right? Welcome back to our channel where we talk about marriage, family vlogs, adoption,
infertility, family building. Yeah.
So we wanted to use today's video to talk about some marriage advice. We haven't touched on that much of it yet.
Or like relationship advice for people just starting out, or people who need a reset, just because we've been married for 5 years now, but we just celebrated 10 years together, or by the time this video is posted, it's a few days away, but by the time this video is posted, we would have just celebrated 10 years together, 5 years married, but 10 years together. And we thought that we'd look back and kind of give some advice on just things we learned along the way, and what we could say to new couples starting out, or people that feel like they might need a reset in their relationship, or some advice on how to strengthen their relationship.
Absolutely. You know, it's important that you always have some kind of temperature check with one another to see how you're doing, because it's not always no news is good news. It's best to always check in regularly, see how one another's doing, because so the other person may not feel exactly the same way as they did once before.
If you guys hear growling or like hitting in the background, that's Charlie going nuts on his toy, but he'll be fine. Yeah, so I think we talked about it before we filmed the video on like what would be our top things that we think we could give out as advice after 10 years of being together. I think number one is communication, and people always tell you that, like communication, but I think we talked about it a little bit different. As far as like people always tell you, oh, you need to learn how to communicate, but for us, I think what we learned is that you never stop learning how to communicate because communication is going to change. So what you need and your communication is not going to be the same when you're dating as to when you live together or when you become parents. So you always have to look at where you are in your relationship and how to grow and evolve what you've already learned.
And you're also trying to, if you've had any bad habits of communicating, you're trying to put those away entirely and actually, like what Justine said, like evolve it, make sure that you're always adapting to one another, because you are trying to spend the rest of your life with one another. So it's best to keep track of how you are communicating with one another.
And like what we mean by like every season, I guess, is like people will tell you, oh, you need to learn how to communicate, but they won't really tell you. They'll kind of act like it stops after you've been together at a certain point. Yeah. Right? And it really doesn't, because every season you kind of have to learn how to communicate. I think we touched on this in a video like 2 weeks ago, but like even with us now, like communication, right? Talking. Like even with us now as new parents, we've had to learn how to communicate as parents, because that's something new, and it's new things that you're communicating about, and raising your kid is something new, and the things you have to communicate with on a daily basis to your spouse as a parent are different than before you were parents. And that's what I mean. Like, so what we do and what like we're suggesting is that every season that you're going through, you reevaluate and have the discussion all over again about how you want to communicate, and check in with your partner and see if what you're doing is even working, and if it's not, how can you fix it. So that's another thing, always checking in, even if you're doing good. Don't just wait to check in because you're not doing good, or because you had some argument. Like, check in even when you're doing good and see how you're actually doing and how you could even do better. Like, and don't think that just because you've been doing good, or just because you've been together 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, whatever it is, that your work is done. Your work in a relationship is never really done.
And that goes with like touching back on what you said about communicating as parents, because remember, we weren't raised in the same household, obviously. So, you know, she's gonna bring her experiences, I'm gonna bring my experiences, and it's important that you come to a compromise or a common theme that you both had agreed to when you started a family. And you have to make sure that's consistent, and you are patient, and you want to always keep that in mind, because you have a tiny human here. So,
yeah, and even if you don't have kids or you don't want children or whatever, still, like, your life still goes through seasons, and you still have to do those check-ins, and you still have to look at where you are, and if you need something new, something different, or if you're still doing good, or if your partner just might need more of you in that season.
And that season could look a variety of different ways.
What
Like
are you
she
doing?
said, you may not want
What are you
children or
doing?
have kids. It could be the season of where you take a road trip together and you bring experiences of how you both may have gone on road trips. The way you communicate on the road is very different from the way you communicate in another part of your relationship. So it's important to always keep language in check, because not everybody thinks the way you do. So your partner may not always think the way you do. They can have some kind of perspective since you've been together for a certain amount of time. But in general, you think the way you do based on the experiences you've had in your life and what you're trying to bring to the table every single day.
To touch on that too, just know that you guys weren't raised in the same household, like he said. So try to listen to the different perspectives and then decide what you're gonna do as a household. When you come together and you become a family, you move in with somebody, you choose to spend your life with somebody, you're choosing to spend your life with someone who you don't really know their childhood. Like, you may know stories and things, but you don't know how those things affected a person and how they think. And so you have to listen to both people's perspective to certain things, and then decide what you want to do in your household. Maybe in your guys' household, you're gonna do something totally different than both your parents did, or maybe you're gonna take from both parents certain things, or maybe both of your parents' relationships weren't healthy, and you guys have to forge your own path. That's something actually that our reverend, when we got married, said to us. So we both come from families who our parents are both divorced, and so he kind of told us, well, when I guess he was having like a premarital conversation with us, and he asked us if any of our parents were still together, and unfortunately both our parents are divorced. And he kind of said that when you are coming from a place of divorce, or especially when both people are coming from households that are divorced parents, now you have to create your own path, because you can't really follow the path of your parents because they're no longer married. So you have to forge your own path, and you can take certain things, because not everything in your parents' relationship was bad or wasn't working. Certain things probably did work, but not fully, obviously. But you can take the good, and then you can also learn from what wasn't so good, and you can, but still, because you're coming from places of children of divorce, you have to forge your own path. And if you are, then you should know that right off the bat. And so that was advice from him that we've taken from there
every day since then.
Yeah. What was the other thing? Having a routine as a couple that keeps your marriage healthy. So doing something together. So
for us, right, what we do on a daily basis.
Talk all the time. Yeah. You want to talk about it?
So on a daily basis, right before bed, what we usually do is we're drinking tea together, and we're actually talking literally right before we go to bed.
Right. So I actually got that from my grandparents. They used to do it every morning. So my grandfather used to wake up really early, and my grandmother used to wake up really early, and so it worked for them to do it in the morning. For us, it kind of doesn't work with our morning routine, just because we start our mornings a little bit more silent with working out, with meditating. Not so silent with this one, but we're taking care of her as well, and just it doesn't really work to sit down and have that conversation. So we decided to do it in nighttime, and like over tea, or sometimes a drink, like if it's a weekend or whatever, like just sitting there and talking, and kind of like most couples, maybe they watch TV or something together, and we do watch TV, but we always make it a point before we fall asleep to kind of turn off the TV and really talk to each other. And that has helped like have deeper conversations, and really kind of feel out the day, and feel out how to make things better, and have those conversations before they turn into arguments, and just kind of have a routine, like I said. But it doesn't have to be our routine. It could be other things too. Having habits that you do together in your household that are not stressful, not like, oh, you have to do this or that. Having fun, relaxing, quality time type of routines, whatever it is that works for you guys, that helps your marriage stay healthy, relevant, and just like up to date with each other, I guess.
And with that, and like Justine said, it could take on a variety of forms. Like, okay, so we watch some relationship shows, Married at First Sight, right? And it takes us a lot longer to get through the whole season because every so often when there's a question or a situation that pops up on the screen, we literally pause it and then we have this long conversation about it. And then if it happened to us in the past or we had a disagreement about it, it allows us to reflect on it, which I think was partly the point maybe why the show was created. But now that's basically what we do. So that's another routine that we always have. Every time we watch the next season, we'll stop it. Like every section, every time we see something, it's just spontaneous break. Oh wait, let's talk about this. I remember when this happened. Do you want to talk?
And what are you doing?
And we just go with it.
You're kicking me.
Another thing that we think that would probably be beneficial is definitely if you have a disagreement and you have children for sake of argument, or even a pet because they do count as part of your children, right?
And they do pick up on your energy.
They do pick up on that stuff. It's best to try and like keep them away from that. So if for some reason we were to have a disagreement and Anna's like nearby, what we would do is if it's at nighttime, then we'd put her to sleep first, and then once she's asleep, or based on her bedtime, then we'll have the whole conversation probably outside of the bedroom or wherever we are, or if we have like if we're gonna be in like nearby for her, then we have to make sure we keep our voices low so that we're able to we speak appropriately to one another.
Yeah, and obviously that's something new that we're navigating. Being a family of 3, having a kid in the household, we didn't really have to think about where we had adult conversations or disagreements before, but you know, obviously being together 10 years, like we didn't both come from households where really like, I guess like, I don't know what your parents did as far as communicating like in disagreements, but
yeah, that part, that one actually, that's a good question. I don't even know.
Maybe they didn't talk. It seems like they didn't talk, but like we had to learn how to do that healthy, just because, like I said, we're both from households with divorce, and we had to learn for ourselves how to kind of fight fair, talk instead of argue, so to speak. And it's something that we had to constantly work on. And then when we had Anna now, she's only 9 months old, so learning to go to the other room, getting used to that is still something we're getting used to. But I wanted to share that just because some people are like, well, you know, every married couple is gonna have disagreements. How could you not have disagreements in front of your child? She's having a disagreement with herself right now. She's having a tantrum. You okay? You sleepy?
Oh, she wants you.
You and me? Okay. Yeah, so it's really something that takes time as a new parent to kind of learn that, oh, I do have to move to the living room. Like it takes time to get used to it and stuff, but it is something important because like we said, I said this in the previous video too, you're teaching your children what is a healthy relationship, and that is part of that, right? Learning how to disagree fairly and well, and also like for your children not to see certain things. It's okay for them to know that like mom and dad don't always agree and mom and dad talk things out. That's normal and healthy, but they don't need to know the specifics of every disagreement you have and hear it as well, especially as a young child. It could be really harsh and traumatizing for them, so that's not something that we want. And the other thing that we're learning now, and I think like even we did the other day when we had to talk about something, it's like if you're dealing with your child's still up, and maybe something that the other person did annoyed you or something like that, it doesn't have to be talked about in the moment. So you don't have to worry about the fact, well, I'm upset now and we're taking care of the baby, and so I'm gonna air this out right now in front of the baby. No, it's okay to kind of put it on pause, deal with the situation as parents and your household, whatever. And then when you're calmer and the baby's sleeping, take those few moments to talk about how you were feeling. And it doesn't even have to be an argument or disagreement. Like, honestly, that's what we've learned 10 years in. Like, you don't have to argue in the sense of argue. You don't have to argue or like yelling or disagreeing below the belt. You can just kind of have the conversation. And if you're that mad that you can't have a conversation, you can take the time for yourself and have the conversation in an hour. The thing that we don't do is take days. Like when people say like I haven't spoken to my spouse in days because we're having a disagreement, that's not healthy. Take the time that you need to cool down, take the time that you need to collect your thoughts, take the time that you need. But honestly, if you're taking more than a few hours to calm down and collect your thoughts and talk to your partner, that's where it turns from healthy like self-care time to unhealthy relationship habit.
Exactly.
So we've never gone days or whatever
No.
not talking. That's never even been a thing. But I know a lot of people that will use that excuse of, well, I needed time and space to let it linger on for days and days, and that's not what I'm talking about. You can take an hour if it's a really heated topic to calm down and figure out how you're going to calmly and rationally express your feelings, but not days and days, not like, don't ruin a whole day for something that could be spoken about in 20 minutes.
Right.
It's about taking it one step at a time in a relationship, and just like I said, we've said this before in other videos, over communicating. So just when you think you've communicated enough, that's really the biggest one, is to check into where you are every season, learn how to communicate again, and always make sure you're checking in with your spouse and your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, and make sure that whatever season you're in, you are taking care of your relationship. Like, take care of your relationship is the main thing. I feel like if you nurture your relationship, a lot of the problems go away on their own.
Yeah, be patient with one another. Be kind to one another as well as yourselves. It's important, because if you don't, then things will start to manifest in other ways and bleed over into areas that they shouldn't be bleeding over to.
Yeah, and one of the last things I'm gonna say is, like, don't take this as advice for when things are going wrong.
Yes.
Take care of your relationship even when things are going right, so that they continue to go right. Because when you stop taking care of your relationship because you think, oh, we've been together X amount of years, everything's fine, or we've been together and everything's going good, that's when things are gonna start going bad. Take care of your relationship even when it's doing good. Nurture it as you would a child. You would still take care of a child,
Yeah.
even when they are healthy and happy, right? So do that to your relationship as well.
So with that, thanks for joining us, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, comment down below if you have any feedback, or if you would like us to explore any additional topics. If you're interested as well, I also have another YouTube channel more focused on giving advice on the teaching profession. I am a teacher, so that's on the card top and in the comment section down below in the description box.
Yeah, so, and if you have any questions about this video or want us to talk about, we're going to also start doing marriage content as well. So if there's anything specifically about marriage you want to know, drop that in the comments as well. But if not, see you guys next week.
Bye.